They asked me to think about what was my moonshot.
So what's the moonshot?
So I said 10,000 schools with rainwater systems by 2030.
Yeah.
She was just like, that's not going to change anything. So I was like, okay, like a million schools, clean water. She's like, there you go. That's a moonshot. So I went to Nepal. I had a great idea of how to turn rain into safe water using gravity, but I didn't know if it was possible. So as we entered the Miller Center, we started learning why we weren't growing. Our limitation was always financial. We expanded our work to really be more technology focused. And so we developed a brand new technology that actually automates rainwater harvesting and treats it.
Okay, well, welcome to Founders at Impact. It's a spin-off series of Miller Center's Line of Sight podcast. My name is Karen Runde. I'm one of the senior directors here at Miller Center. And today I am really happy that we are sitting down with the one and only Danny Wright, CEO and founder of two businesses, Gravity Water and CloudWell Water Technologies. Did I get that right?
Yep.
But what's really cool is that obviously we're outside. We are physically in, where are we right now, Danny?
Nairobi, Kenya.
Yes, so we actually just wrapped up Miller Center's first inaugural Entrepreneur Summit. It was physically here in Nairobi. We're actually in the beautiful back garden of Untap's office. And yeah, so it's just a pleasure to be here and to sit down with you. I think to kick off, if you were to give a high-level summary of what Gravity Water is all about, what would you say to people that have no idea what you do?
Yeah, well, we get that question a lot. And, you know, how I summarize the work we do at Gravity Water is we're really helping communities, especially rural and vulnerable communities, get access to a resilient source of water. And we do that through rain.
Yeah.
So we're really bringing an exciting and innovative way to turn rain into safe water, mainly for schools, but we're expanding that to communities at large.
That's awesome. And you're currently in Vietnam and Nepal right now?
Yeah, we have operations in Vietnam and Nepal. We're launching a couple operations in Indonesia and Malaysia currently.
That's cool.
And we just completed an urban pilot in Taipei.
Nice.
So we're seeing a lot of growth in the region of Southeast Asia especially, and excited to continue our work there.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you launched Gravity Water in, I think it was 2016. Did I get
Correct,
that right?
yeah.
But if we could step back even further, a few basic questions. Why water? Why Asia? Because obviously, you know, I don't think you're from Asia. So why this particular part of the region, and why focus on this particular sector?
Yeah, definitely. Well, you know, when I got started with my journey towards environmental sustainability and community development, it was really founded actually in Latin America.
Okay.
So I was traveling in Mexico and did a great trip throughout Central America.
Yeah.
During college and after. A lot was around surfing and
yes.
finding that perfect empty wave. But,
Yes.
you know, as I was traveling, especially in college, I was really passionate initially about climate change and adaptation and really food systems. That really grabbed my attention. But as I started traveling and visiting more communities, I started noticing one of the major challenges most people face was just access to a safe and reliable water source.
Right. Yeah.
And that really got me thinking of the challenges facing the global community around water and why this problem hasn't been solved yet.
Yeah.
And so I determined that that was really the focus that I wanted to really bring to the world, was surrounding building resilient water systems for communities. And fast forward, I went to grad school, doing my Master's of Science in Watershed Science and Policy, completed that and decided to take a year off, learn more, travel.
Yep.
And I found myself actually in Nepal. That was mainly for my own personal, I was kind of on a spiritual journey of my own and really wanting to explore that part of the world. I was really fascinated by Eastern tradition. And yeah, so I went to Nepal. I had a great idea of how to turn rain into safe water using gravity.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if it was possible. So that was kind of an end goal, but really it was just to experience and learn more about that culture. And I was teaching English and art at a local school there in Kathmandu. This was right after 2 devastating earthquakes hit. And
Is this around 2015?
yeah,
That's
that
when it
was in
opened, so-
2015 when we traveled out.
Yeah.
And then, we got the first system built in 2016. I just asked my friend who was the coach at the school if he thought it'd be a good idea. He said yes. And then, we got the first system installed and it worked incredibly well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I just really, first of all, I align with your journey so much because you and I are both from California. You're from Santa Cruz,
Correct,
right? Yeah. And the surfing part, I kind of want to go into that as well. But if we could step back a little bit and talk about Danny as the person growing up, leading up to you going to Nepal, getting this idea. I really want to hear that journey because we full disclosure, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just such a beautiful journey that you've been on, and spirituality has really been a big piece of that, a thread of that. So you're from Santa Cruz. For those of you at home that don't know about Santa Cruz, how would you describe Santa Cruz, California?
Totally radical.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I love Santa Cruz. I grew up there, and it's really centered around a bunch of different things. Surfing's probably the biggest aspect.
Yeah.
It's actually where the first surfing occurred on mainland Americas.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's been a part of the culture ever since. And it also has a lot around skateboarding, a lot around environmentalism.
Right.
It's really a champion of sustainability in a lot of ways, and a lot of just really cool people that care about their earth, care about having fun and coexisting.
Yeah. So your family is from Santa Cruz originally, or were you?
No, I was born in New Mexico, so I was born in the desert.
Okay.
And that could somehow tie into my journey for water. I don't know.
Yeah,
but we moved over to Santa Cruz when I was 5 years old, and I grew up there, spent all of elementary school. And I actually, after my parents split up, my dad moved back to New Mexico, and I started spending time there as well.
Yeah.
Kind of at these formative years in junior high and early high school. And it was such an interesting experience for me because I was on two complete polarities of lifestyle.
Yeah.
I was living in one instance, with my mom on the coast of Santa Cruz, beautiful community, affluent community.
Yeah.
A lot of resources.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, my dad was living in a very impoverished community in New Mexico. So, when I was in New Mexico, I'd go and hang out with my friends who lived in trailer homes. And then in Santa Cruz, beach houses.
Yeah.
And I think what that actually did, and why I bring that up, is it really, I think, built a sense of empathy for me in understanding that we all come from different places. We all are born with different resources. But all the humans that I meet are equally beautiful and amazing. And so I think when I talk about my story, I really think that influenced me. Just seeing that, there's a need, there's a dichotomy of access to resources.
For sure.
And I really wanted to support kind of creating balance between that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really beautiful that you have that insight and have a leg in both kind of ways of living. And I think, for Santa Cruz especially, it really supports kind of an active spirituality and a way of being. And not to put you on the spot again, but you had sort of this really kind of aha, enlightened moment at a pretty young age, I would say. I don't know if you feel okay sharing that.
Yeah, I can share a little bit about that. So, when I grew up in Santa Cruz, I wasn't the best student. I actually had a pretty challenging upbringing. I dropped out of high school. I was actually, pretty much homeless in New Mexico. So I went through a bunch of different challenges. And, I think that really affected me in a way that made me feel limited. And, I was constantly told I wasn't good enough by my experience through the K through 12 experience, getting bad grades, constantly feeling just not good enough. And, it was interesting because after I finished high school, I actually ended up finishing. I started getting interested in other ways of living. Meditation was something I was interested in. And through a really unique stage of events, I won't go into all the details. I ended up meeting this amazing older man that, pretty much became my spiritual teacher in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And at the age of 18, I started meditating every day. It completely changed my path.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful because the trajectory I was on before then, I have no idea where I was going. And the second after I met him, I really understood I had purpose and I had the ability to fulfill that purpose. All I had to do was stop telling myself stories that weren't true.
Yeah.
And so he really helped me kind of step into curiosity and optimism about my future, and really helped influence where I am today.
Yeah. I just think that's so remarkable that it just took kind of this one person to really unlock that in you and have you have that moment, be like, oh yeah, I do have this purpose. And once you had that purpose, it almost seemed like things fell in line with you. Like you went to UC Santa Barbara, then you went to grad school, focused on water. Like it just set you on this path that felt aligned to your purpose.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's interesting. We have moments in our life that I think are key moments that affect us in a profound way.
Yeah.
And those come through maybe an experience, or maybe through meeting somebody. For me, it was a little bit of both, and just really learning that we all have the ability to achieve what we want. We just have to really imagine we can and put an effort to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a critical shift in my life that got me to where I am today.
Yeah. And look where you are now. Like you've got 2 thriving businesses. You've impacted, I don't even know how many children, how many schools. It's incredible. You've got like a global team. Like that journey is just so cool.
Yeah, it's a journey and it's a continual one, and it's not one, that was always clear and straightforward. Even before starting Gravity Water, I had to navigate continuous challenge. And I think that's a lot of the work I think a lot of entrepreneurs do, and humans. Is we have to kind of determine when we face challenge, whether it's a sign we're not moving in the right direction or it's a sign that we're growing. And so a lot of my work with Gravity Water, kind of growing it, was really figuring out what was my growth edge and my challenge that I had to get over, and what was I doing that wasn't right. And that was a really tricky part, but yeah, it's an up and down process all the way. And right now we're going up, and it's really exciting.
So I do want to talk about where you're headed, but so if we could go back, so it's, okay, so 2015, you're in Nepal, Gravity Water becomes an official thing. And then at what point did you get introduced to Miller Center?
So we first found out about Miller Center in 2021, I want to say, or at the end of 2020. And it was an accelerator program that I learned about that helped scale ideas and businesses. And, we were at a very interesting moment in our journey. It wasn't a good one. We were really impacted by COVID, and it just kind of came at this perfect opportunity. And there's so much happening in that 12-month span, that Miller Center was it was the perfect moment for us to meet and discover and participate in the program.
That's cool. So 2021, that was I believe it was our Chevron it was a custom cohort focused on climate resilience in Asia. So Gravity Water just sort of like ticked all the boxes for that cohort. But since then you've stayed involved with us in different ways, which has been really cool that we're able to kind of be on that journey with you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that first experience with that cohort on climate resilience in the Asia Pacific region, that we learned so much from, because for a few reasons. One, we had the time to actually think about our future. I no longer was just trying to figure out how to make payroll the next month. It was this period where everything crashed, so I gotta take a step back. I didn't have to worry about that anymore. So we had some time to really look at what wasn't working with our program, and the mentorship program that Miller Center provided really helped us gain insights that I couldn't have. I didn't have the experience. You don't know what you don't know. And so through that mentorship program, we really started building out a new framework of how do we talk about Gravity Water kind of as a business. I didn't have a business background, so that was a huge help. And it really helped us build a business model that was focused on growth. And right after that, we followed up with the INRES,
Yes. Yeah.
And that was kind of taking that baseline and foundation we made with that climate resilience accelerator and really diving deep and really expanding, our financial models, our pitch, our strategy for fundraising. And it was actually in that cohort or that experience that I really developed Gravity Water's current business model that's taking us from, a few, like about 50 schools to nearly 500.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you've done RN Res, that was in 2022, and that was purely just with Gravity Water at the time. But now you also have this other business, it's CloudWell Water Technologies. If you could maybe talk us through those two and how they intersect with each other. Because I think that's just like a really interesting model that you've come up with to help you scale further.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think, what happened with Gravity Water was we started mainly as a services-based organization. We'd help schools build rainwater systems. Everyone was different. We did education. We really focused a lot on fundraising. And as we entered the Miller Center, we started learning why we weren't growing. One of these challenges we had was we didn't have a clear strategy to raise money. So our limitation was always, and barriers to growth was always financial. The second was we didn't have really a product. We couldn't really measure how much it would cost us to grow. We didn't have any of those economics figured out. So kind of around the time we started working with Miller Center, two things happened. The first was we expanded our work to really be more technology focused. It wasn't just about the services. We wanted to create a product. We wanted a product that could scale and reach millions of people. And we wanted it to be innovative and novel. And so we developed a brand new technology that actually automates rainwater harvesting and treats it. And what's really exciting about that is, we're really making rainwater useful. It's beyond just a trash can next to your house. It's really bringing rainwater into your structures, whether they're house, hospital, schools. And, as we started growing and expanding through that model, we started getting funding from corporate partners. Funding stopped being the main constraint. And really it was our actual business model. We couldn't do a lot as a nonprofit. So we decided to actually incorporate as a for-profit to handle our technology, handle our IP, do things, allow us to certify, allow us to sell to both private and public markets. And it's been a really exciting shift because it really is allowing us to make our impact bigger than our organization. And I think that's something so important when we talk about scales. How do we get bigger than ourselves?
I just think it's really cool to see that evolution and like have that moment of saying like, okay, we can only do so much just within this sort of nonprofit structure. So how do we scale beyond that? And it's like, okay, I'm just going to have not like a whole other business, but kind of like a whole other business that supports the core of what you're doing and also supporting other entities that are working in a similar space, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a lot of people focused on what we're after, climate resilience, water security. It's not just us.
It's not just us.
And we have a really great technology and tool and business model to get this technology to thousands of organizations and get funding for it to thousands of organizations. So why would we not focus on that? On, doing skill transfer, doing empowerment, and really focusing on how do we get this in other people's hands as a primary tool for scale. So that's what we're really focused on moving forward.
So can you describe who your ideal kind of target customers are for CloudWell and for Gravity Water?
Well, currently Gravity Water is funded by three main sources. The first is through corporate partnerships. So we're working with a lot of big corporations from, from Apple all the way down to small groups, helping them, meet their CSR goals, but really actually helping a lot of them with their water stewardship goals. So a lot of corporates in the Fortune 500 especially have a goal of being water neutral by 2030. That means they're conserving as much water as they're using in their supply chain. And for a lot of these companies, that seems like a very hard task to theoretically achieve. And so we've been working closely with these corporates on helping them actually conserve water in their watershed through our rainwater systems. That's funding hundreds of schools per year.
It's amazing.
The other two places we're really growing and funding is through carbon capital. So a lot of our projects in Nepal and in rural regions are expanding through carbon finance. And that's been a really exciting learning curve, but we've kind of figured it out. And that's why that's so exciting, is because that can bring our projects to remote regions globally. And I'd say the last is we just formed a partnership with UNICEF and some development funding that can really help us scale, and especially in the public sector. So I think those are the three main funding sources. Where CloudWell is going to go moving forward, you know, we see, well, Gravity Water, we're going to continue to support these corporates. We're going to continue to expand through more, you know, development-based funding and carbon funding. But really where we want to get to is funding other NGOs. That's our goal as Gravity Water. We want to be more of a foundation.
Which makes a lot of sense.
And really try to bring in capital to places if needed. Now, CloudWell has a very interesting role to play here. Because we have an incredible opportunity to expand what we're doing beyond just schools. We care about clean water access, but we also really care about water security. And what we're finding out globally is that if we don't find ways to conserve water, we're going to run out of it. We're seeing places like Jakarta, Indonesia that are sinking because we're taking so much water out of the ground and none of it can get in because all these cities have been designed to move rainwater away, right? So what we're really after as an organization, both as Gravity Water and CloudWell, is how do we really build water security? And what we think is a really attainable and achievable solution is just using rainwater when it's raining. How do we just turn off groundwater pumps? And so we have a few ways of growing our business, CloudWell. The first is extending our impact with our CSR partners to their supply chain and their value chain at large, so getting industry and manufacturing running off rain. We want to be selling to other NGOs. And eventually, we really see the angle as giving a product for utilities to actually bring rainwater into their building structure.
That's cool. But it's not just rainwater too. Like, you guys are pretty holistic in your services, because it's rainwater, but also you treat traditional water sources. And there's also like a big educational component as well, which I think is really critical. I don't know if you could talk about that, like how you're sort of supporting communities on how to talk about water conservation, tying it back into climate resilience. Like, that's, I think, a big piece of what you're doing also. So I don't know if you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, because water conservation it's so important, both that we have the technology and tools to do it, but we also have to have the incentives and care and value on it. And one of the great opportunities we have working in schools is we're really able to engage the next generation. And we're doing that in a really unique way. So we have water meters on all our systems, and all the students can actually measure their water use every day, both their groundwater use and their rainwater use. And so we've been having these STEM programs where they can actually visualize how their water use changes. And as you know, behavior change is such a hard thing to accomplish. But if we can help visualize how actions affect change, we believe that decisions will be made on a personal level and with these children, and we think that could really shift behavior much more quickly.
I think that's such a critical piece to unlocking, access to safe water and water justice is like the learning. So a couple of years ago, I was actually in India with another one of our enterprises that sold sort of like basic products to communities. And one of them was like, you know, a solar powered lamp, like a water filter. Practically nobody bought the water filter. It was always about the lamp. And because I don't think they could really, it wasn't seen as something like a necessity, even though clearly they were drinking water from like this bog that was like 100% dirty, but it was like, it wasn't seen as a necessity. Like having access to energy so they could charge their lamps was more important. So I think when you can connect those dots and make it really clear, like why this is important, that's when things start to really change. So I just believe like the community education part is such a key element to doing what you're doing. So aside from Miller Center, though, you've been pretty active in other programs. Like I was looking at the website, the Gravity Water website, and you guys have gotten a lot of awards and accolades. One of them was the Clinton Global Initiative, which is like a pretty big one. Can you talk a little bit about some of those and how they've supported or maybe not supported your work? And
I'll focus on supported, but I'll focus maybe on a collective challenge and comparative, what we've taken from participating in Miller Center and these others. So we had some incredible opportunities to participate with other groups such as Clinton Global Initiative through their greenhouse cohort. We also participated in the SDG Moonshot. That was by Unlock Aid. And that one was actually very, very big for our mission and growth, mainly because they asked me to think about what was my moonshot. What was the thing that you think Gravity Water could accomplish, but barely? Or maybe it's impossible, but really a big focus on the maybe.
So what's the moonshot?
The moonshot was I remember telling the woman who was talking to me, Amanda, about this, and she said, okay, Danny, what's your moonshot for Gravity Water? And at the time, I think we had maybe 50 schools or 60 schools done. And so I said 10,000 schools with rainwater systems by 2030. And it was so funny because she was just like, Danny, that's not going to change anything. Like it isn't those communities, it's going to change, but we need to be affecting 100 of thousands of communities. So
go big or go home.
Go big or go home. So I was like, okay, like 1 million schools, clean water. She's like, there you go. That's a moonshot.
That's a moonshot.
And I just had to completely think, how would we possibly do that? And it was this whole journey that really helped me realize utilities were such a critical part of our scale journey. So anyhow, I don't want to get off track. I think that was a really powerful accelerator. CGI, I got to go and actually pitch at the CGI annual meeting. That was amazing in Climate Week. We were just in an accelerator with Leading Cities, which is a group. They did that with QB Insurance. And that was really cool. It was a curriculum-based accelerator. We actually won it. So we were selected out of 740 companies as the top solution.
That's amazing.
And that actually is going to allow us to pilot in the US this year.
Nice.
So we're both looking on the West and East Coast to do some rainwater projects. And we had a couple other more small scale accelerators, but what I really noticed as a key difference was the mentors in Miller Center. That was actually not part of any of the other accelerators we worked with. Like we had mentors, but they're for a big group. They weren't specific just for our company. And so a lot of the curriculum and the materials were really more broad. And so I always had to shift and apply them to my business model. Whereas Miller Center, we really had 2 dedicated mentors every single week working with us to really help us succeed given our unique business model.
Who are your mentors?
We had a few. We had Tony Stainer, we had Sanjeev, we had Daniel Krebs, we had Arvind, and who am I missing? I'm missing somebody. Eric. I forgot his last name.
Cunningham? Cunningham? No.
Maybe. I could be missing that last person. That was, I think, from our original one. But yeah, we had a few amazing mentors that really helped us. And, not just our mentors, it was also the Miller Center community at large. And that was really, really a powerful support that we didn't have anywhere else.
Oh, thank you for saying that. That means a lot. And every single entrepreneur that I've spoken to, that's the first thing is the mentorship that they've gotten. And that just really speaks to our mentor network at large. That really is what makes our program the program that it is. And all those gentlemen that you named, I know them so well now after being at Miller Center for so many years. These guys are just genuinely in it because they just want to see you succeed. That's why they're a part of Miller Center. And you don't get that in a lot of communities.
And I'm in touch with most of them. They've been a big part of my journey. Sanju's actually on my board. He's helped us completely get to where we are today. And Tony's been a great ally and advocate for our work. So it's been really nice still growing with them and saying, hey, you know, this model we planned out together, it's on track.
Yeah.
5 years down the line, or 4 years down the
incredible.
line. Yeah.
That's really cool. So a few more questions for you. Well, actually, I want to talk about Clinton Global Initiative. What was kind of the big thing you got out of that experience? Because Miller Center is also pretty deeply connected with CGI also. We actually just made a pledge to basically deploy $20 million by 2030 to support all of you guys, so all of our social entrepreneurs. So that was a really big thing for us last year.
Yeah.
I don't know, did you make a pledge too? Or
I'm actually in the process right now.
You're in the process of pledging, okay.
So we're joining the CGI community beyond just the greenhouse initiative, our cohort, this year. And I'm still trying to work on the pledge that best suits us. But yeah, it's a really, I think, important convening of people and helping bring in both big ideas, but also resources to meet those big ideas and achieve them. And it's been an influential part of our work. A lot of the groups I met at CGI were really helpful and sticking with our story, checking in. And it's been really, really a great experience to be part of that ecosystem as well.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to chat with Bill and Hillary?
No, I didn't get a chance to chat with Bill and Hillary yet, but I did get to see them, and I really, feel that what they're doing and kind of putting together this initiative and a family is really, it's important. It's important to do, not just to go out and do the work, but to inspire it.
Totally.
And I think that's what they're doing there.
Yeah, that's very cool. So Gravity Water, the logo, I'm always curious about people's logos and their branding. So the Gravity Water logo, it's what is it, 3 drops of 3 different shades of blue that make a triangle. Is there some kind of deeper meaning behind that?
That's a good question. So if you think about it, it's actually like the recycling logo, but with water.
Yeah, well, yes.
And so it's kind of representing that water cycle of rain, and we've tried to incorporate like 3 different pillars and apply things, but at the end of the day, when we created it, we're trying to find something that represented, the importance of water, the water cycle, and how it connected with people, and that's, was created, and I was like, there it is. That's us.
That's it. Did you work with any sort of branding, marketing team to create that, or did that come from your own vision?
We had a couple ideas, but it was actually the designer I was working with at the time. Kind of came up with a few concepts, and it was just very clear. There's about 3, and then I shared them with everyone in like a vote, and 97 or 98% voted for that, including me. So it was very apparent that was our logo. But it took a little bit of time. I think logos are tricky because they're supposed to really represent something about you, but also be unique enough to be remembered.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like the best logos are the ones that are just super simple, and the same with like the name of a business. If you can keep it really simple, then people can just easily remember it. And Gravity Water is pretty on the nose there. But
Gravity Water is great. It's very easy for people to remember. Sometimes we get confused with Charity Water, which is a much bigger and different water charity. But I do think that it's a name everybody knows. Everybody usually knows the word gravity and water, even in different languages. And it's been a really cool journey, kind of creating a concept that started as a technology that filtered rain using gravity. That's kind of where we started our name. But now we're using pressurized systems from gravity. We still incorporate that into our work. And it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, that's really cool. So 2016, or I guess 2015 was when the kind of like the genesis of Gravity Water began. And then if you fast forward to now, 2025, if you could like look back, like look at yourself in 2015 as you now, what would you say has been like the biggest learning for you on that journey as a leader?
I think there's 2 things. Like we always think about what would we have done differently? And if I was to do anything differently, it would have been surrounded myself with more mentors and support at an early stage. if I knew that I should have been collecting data with meters in 2016,
Yeah.
I think we would have been way further along, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
If I knew that there was other ways to do our work besides just going out and asking for a grant, that could have influenced us.
Yeah.
So a lot of what Miller Center brought in through that mentorship would have been incredibly valuable in the first few years of running Gravity Water.
Right.
What I'm proud of that I would not change, and what I think I did right,
Yep.
was I never gave up. There was a lot of moments that were extremely challenging that I did not know why. All I was trying to do was help communities get clean water, and it
Yeah.
just seemed like the world was against me.
Against you. Yeah.
You know, it felt like the whole weight of the world was on my shoulders, and I just couldn't get a break.
Right.
And what I realized was through pushing through each of those experiences, I built resilience in myself.
Yeah.
I understood my why. I understood that, you know, success isn't measured by how much revenue you generate,
Right.
but really about how true you stay to your mission
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
your ability to fulfill that with the goal of keeping a smile on your face. I think that's my goal. Yeah.
Totally. That's a good goal. Absolutely. So you've got quite a diverse team. So you've got a team in Vietnam, you've got a team in Nepal, look like you have some folks in the US and Mexico. How do you manage these sort of global international teams that probably have a lot of different cultural diversity as well? What does that look like as a leader
Yeah,
for you?
it's tricky, to be honest. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't hard. I think especially the cultural piece.
Yeah.
You know, every culture interacts differently.
Yes.
And I think really trying to come from a lens of understanding and openness and curiosity is really important instead of assumptions or,
Right.
you know, thinking things should be this way.
Yeah.
I've had to really change my leadership style based on the communities I work with, and they're not transferable.
Right.
And so I think one of the big challenges that most leaders have, especially early on, is how do we actually bring in trust and step away and delegate responsibility, but also not create liability.
Yeah.
And that's been a big journey for me, is how do I help empower my team to step up, to really fall into their purpose and passion, but also making sure there's guidance. So the way we do that is we create local leadership in each country. We have, you know, one central leader who's passionate, who's really dedicated to the success. And then they work with their community in their own cultural context. And in our global team, we're just really actually focusing on really hiring and building a team that's passionate and hungry.
Yes.
People that believe in change. They haven't converted to pessimism. They're really go-getters, and that's been really helping cultivate the energy of our work.
Yeah, that goes a long way. I think finding recent young graduates, for me, that's been a big way to build out a team, is finding folks that are like hungry and wanting to have a change in the world and have that bigger purpose, and then you can train them along the way. But I realize running a business, you do need folks with a certain level of expertise in X, Y, and Z. So how do you navigate that? Because that's also something that I'm dealing with at Miller Center.
I think, you know, we've worked with high school students, college students, grad students. You know, we had a program where we were working with 20 different college interns at a single time,
My gosh.
which was wild.
That's wild,
But, you know, I think based on different skill sets, for example, grad students have a way different relationship with your company as an intern. We started obviously providing paid interns. We did at first as a nonprofit, but providing paid internships was a really great way to find talent and create buy-in by the intern. You know, one of our strongest team members right now started as an intern about a year ago.
Really?
And she, within 3 months, she was finishing her grad program in Berkeley. And right after finishing that, she transitioned into a manager kind of role where I'm still delegating most responsibilities.
Nice.
She's now running all of our international programs.
Wow.
And she's extremely talented, but most importantly, she cares and she's passionate.
She cares.
And she's committed to doing a good job and growing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so I think finding those students that really care about their future, really care about the impact they're going to make, and really are open to learning is huge. And sometimes that's hard if somebody's been trained to do something for a certain way, especially in an innovative startup.
Right.
Yeah,
it's very true. So at Miller Center, we're always kind of paying attention to like what the ecosystem's telling us, and there's different buzzwords that you see, especially in the impact space. So for several years, and it's in our name, like we've called the entrepreneurs that we work with social entrepreneurs, but it's kind of feeling like now the word social is going maybe a little bit out of fashion, or so we're kind of changing towards talking about impact entrepreneurship or just entrepreneurship or change maker. How do you refer to yourself in the work that you do?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm in the business for good. I'm here to build a brighter future for the world. I think the big thing that shifts or differentiates what we're doing, like the companies at Miller Center and other startups that might be building apps or whatever, is that our focus is on helping people and helping the global community, and it's not just about increasing our profits or exiting a company within 3 or 4 years after starting it. So I don't know what I'd call myself. I definitely think there's a social component. There's also an environmental component. There's a lot. I think I'd have to get back to you on that, but something around building a future.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'd like to get to a point where everyone refers to themselves as an entrepreneur, but it's already inherently baked in that like impact and environmentalism is a part of that. Like that's what I envision for sure.
I would say that, today it almost feels like it's an opt-in, that we have to actually opt into sustainability.
Totally, yeah.
And we need to make it an opt-out.
Exactly.
It needs to be the standard in every business practice that it's benefiting our future, benefiting our environment, and benefiting the people at large.
So what's next for you and for Gravity Water and CloudWell? What's going to happen this year?
We have a couple exciting things on the horizon this year.
Yeah.
I'd say the biggest are surrounding our expansions to Indonesia.
Nice.
We're scaling out an initiative in Malaysia too. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
And we plan on actually starting to put boots on the ground in India at the end of this year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and probably no projects off the ground by then, but setting up the foundation. So that's really exciting. We're working with, our goal is over 100 schools in the Jakarta area.
Wow.
We'll be working with a similar amount in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And so kind of expanding, that's always great.
Yeah.
For CloudWell, we're actually gaining a lot of momentum right now. We just won the Twilio Climate Prize.
Nice.
So that's going to help us kind of scale out our technology to bring in smart meters and start tracking data and building apps and really creating a cool product. Cool. Our goal is to actually, we have this really cool system that we developed. It looks kind of like the size of a refrigerator that you can put on a wall, connect to the roof, plug in the water sources, and plug in, and it will do the rest. Amazing. All the rainwater harvesting for you and treatment for you. And we've created a really cool product around that.
Yeah.
However, it's still being built kind of in a garage. It really looks still prototype.
Yeah.
So we're really excited to create a really, sexy, good-looking system that's can, be right next to a Tesla powered wall and fit right in.
Very cool.
So we're doing some really cool designs, changes, building out, vertical tanks that can fit against walls and not take up footprints.
Nice.
So we'll see some innovation in our technology that I think will be really exciting. And we actually just got brought into the Imagine H2O Accelerator program.
Nice.
And for those not familiar with that, they select 10 of the, most promising innovative startups.
Yeah.
And so that's really exciting because that's for CloudWell, and they're going to really help us develop our business model, really define, how we bring our product to market, what our, understanding willingness to pay, where we price, all these things that are still kind of question marks for us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you're going to be pretty busy. You got a lot going on.
I got a lot going on.
A lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah. I got a lot going on, but I'm optimistic that the support's going to come that will really help us build our capacity, meet these new opportunities, and really continue this trajectory we've been on to expand, water access to these communities that currently don't have it.
Yeah. So how do you keep all of these things in check? Like, you're accomplishing so many things, you've got a purpose, but how do you also kind of tie that into like your personal well-being?
So that's still a work in progress. I'd be lying if I said I mastered that.
Yeah.
But, one thing that really helped me was I had to shift my perspective because it can feel like a lot, and it can burn you out to be an entrepreneur
Yes.
and feel so much weight and pressure on you.
Yeah.
I felt like I was under constant stress all the time of just so much responsibility.
Yeah.
And, you know, the way I see stress is pressure mixed with fear. And so every time I'd feel stress, I'd be, what am I afraid of? You know, I'd say that to myself. And really, the biggest thing I did to kind of keep it together is just really not be in conflict.
Not be in conflict.
It doesn't mean you're accepting everything, but it means you're allowing it to be there,
Yeah.
so you can be in control of pivoting.
Yeah.
For example, traveling. I've been traveling so much
Nonstop.
for years.
Yeah, nonstop.
And all I want to do is stop. And even just today, I got an email saying I need to be in Vietnam in 2 weeks, and I just was so excited to go home. And yeah, even today, like this morning, I was in conflict with that and say, do I go, do I not go? But it's important I'm there.
Yeah.
And I just changed my perspective and say, hey, I'm going to go for a few days. It'll be great. I'll meet some new people and I'll come back. And I think really shifting your perspective as a founder that this is an opportunity, that you can dictate this experience in your life, and how you respond matters.
Yeah.
And also making sure you're investing in yourself, because you're the greatest factor of your business that will help it succeed or lead it to failure.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's such a insightful way to speak about running a business, and also just finding like the path of least resistance, but also like still listening to what's still true for you and what you need in that moment. It seems like you have a good sense of that, is the vibe I'm getting from you.
Yeah, I think now I recognize it.
Yeah.
So all the time before, when I deal with stress or pressure or overwhelm, now when I start experiencing that, I know that's just part of the game,
Right.
and that this is what actually I signed up for, and that I'm the person to handle it.
Yeah.
I'm the guy for the job, and
You're
I
the
can
guy.
do this,
It's
and
you.
I don't need to shy away. I can lean in and say, hey, I got this. Like,
You do.
let's not throw our hands up. Let's roll our sleeves up and let's go. You know, and so that's really what I've been really trying to lead with energetically, and it's made my life a lot easier.
Yeah. No, I think that should be, I mean, here, I feel like the more we can sort of instill that in our entrepreneur community, I think the healthier we'll be as a whole. Because I do feel like collectively there is that just like, you always got to go, go, go. And it's like almost like you're being a martyr for the sake of your business. And it's like, but no, you're going to be no good to anybody if you just completely burn out and fizzle out. You don't get anything done. It starts with you. So what books or podcasts are you reading or have you read that you would recommend to folks out there related to the space you're in, or just something you really love?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I listen to, my favorite podcast is Be Here Now by Ram Dass. It's just, I love his teachings. He's kind of like one of my spiritual teachers, and he just allows me to bring humor into life, and also compassion and love, and remember that we have an opportunity to be of service, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I listen to him a lot. For work-related stuff, I listen to a few things. Good Fortune's one of them. That one kind of interacts kind of with my area of focus, mainly in Australia, but regionally. For books, I usually read, books that help me kind of understand how to manage my emotions. How to manage my, they're more spirituality based.
Yeah.
I'd say a few influential ones that are really easy reads was Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. If you haven't got into meditation or understanding your mindset. A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, that was really helping me understand conflict. And of course, I've read all the other ones like Atomic Habits and all these other ones that are great. Make Your Bed. These kind of leader books. Those are really helpful. But I think what's been most helpful is understanding myself. How do I deal with challenge? How do I deal with conflict internally? And how can I be a source of peace? How can I lead from that? Because I think that's the most important thing of a leader, is being a calm presence in a stressful situation.
Yeah. And people feel that energy. If you're at peace with yourself, that vibration just ripples out to everybody that you interact with. Completely agree.
Yeah. So those are most. For other books that I like for teachings, Thich Nhat Hanh is a great Vietnamese Buddhist author, and yeah, I think I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really solid list of resources.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if people want to reach out to you and learn more about the work that you're doing, what's the best way to get in touch?
Well, if you're in the Miller Center community and ecosystem, I'm sure you can find my email. You can always, it might be attached to this podcast, which is great.
Yeah.
The other way is obviously on LinkedIn, just keeping tabs. I don't really use social media anymore, but I am keeping up to date on LinkedIn and just keeping all these cool new announcements, new partnerships, new innovations. That's a really great way to follow along our journey right now.
Good.
And
LinkedIn,
and Excellent. Just reaching out to anybody at Miller Center if you want a more formal connection with me.
Awesome.
I'd be really happy to share more.
Yeah, amazing. So, I mean, is there anything that we didn't touch in this conversation that you want to share with all of our viewers out there?
Yeah, I would say the last week has been outstanding. I got to connect with some of the coolest entrepreneurs from all over. And it was such a powerful experience to be around your people. So if you're a founder out there, it's, look at these opportunities to find your community. Miller Center's a great one, but man, I'm leaving this feeling so recharged and I'm so happy you're doing this.
That makes me so happy to hear. I mean, this was like the first summit we've done like this, and there's going to be more, and I'm just so glad that you're a part of that community.
Yes, I'm super grateful. So thank you for putting that together. It was, I think, super impactful for all of us.
Yeah, amazing. All right, well, I think we've got it. Thanks everybody for listening. More to come soon, but signing off with Danny, Karen from Nairobi.
Thanks.